In my work as a counsellor, one of the issues that I come across from time to time is when my clients talk about the difficulty they have in dealing with people who they feel are narcissistic. And I want to spend some time in this video talking a bit about what people who have narcissistic traits normally have and how they kind of exhibit those traits. And I want to dig down into why people have these traits and why narcissists act in the way they do. I know from watching some podcasts, a lot of people do kind of rag on narcissists and really cannot stand them and despise them. For understandable reasons, based on what I'm going to kind of talk about in this video, but I want to offer my own personal insights into what I think might be going on. There's some things that hopefully offer a bit more of a unique insight, so please stay tuned to find out more. I'm Desh, I'm a qualified counsellor, and I am experienced in seeing clients with a range of different problems. This spans from depression and anxiety, fear, from people pleasing, seeking validation from others, feeling inadequate. There's just so many areas of work that I've kind of worked with my clients that it all boils down to some common points. Usually it's about kind of exploring their past and exploring and digging down into how they're feeling and what is the need underneath that feeling, what's really going on. It's allowing and empowering my clients to communicate how they're feeling, to set boundaries, to assert themselves, to follow what they truly value in life. And I'm really proud to be a part of that process, and I'm almost obsessed by just wanting to learn more about how people are impacted by the struggles they're having. And one of the things that I've come across is people who are narcissistic and how it just seems impossible to be in a relationship with people who are narcissistic, and they're just unbearable people. So narcissism is essentially, if we want to think of it on a spectrum, all right, so at the very tail end, you have narcissistic personality disorder. So that's when someone has a disorder where they are narcissistic because it's constantly and persistently showing up. The traits are impacting every aspect of their life, from work, from relationships, from their sense of self. It's just very pervasive, and so therefore they're diagnosed with having a personality disorder. All right, but you can scale it all the way back down to the other end, where someone doesn't have a narcissistic personality disorder, but it doesn't mean they're not narcissistic, or they don't have some narcissistic traits within them, which can be very difficult to deal with. So narcissism is essentially the sense that I am better than you, I am more important than you, the attention needs to be on me. You can imagine why people struggle to be around people like that. They seem to have this big ego, everything's about them. The narcissistic person doesn't care about what anyone else thinks, they have no empathy. It's always about them. Therefore, any comment you make to them, even if it's good-natured, they will take it as a personal attack. They completely skew it as to, you're attacking me, I'm going to attack you. They become defensive. It just seems impossible to reach someone's core who has narcissism. And so this is why those relationships become so toxic, because you're with someone who constantly needs assurance, but they don't come out and say, I need assurance, I'm vulnerable. They use tactics like manipulation and gaslighting to achieve their aim. This is why it's such a toxic relationship, because you are left feeling like a fool. You are left feeling like you're being taken advantage of, you're not being respected, your boundaries are not being even considered, and so therefore you feel you are not being valued. And this is the point. This is what the narcissist wants to do. Now, whether they consciously want to do it or subconsciously, I'll leave that to the experts to, you can look and click on videos of experts who know more about this. But I think from my experience of working with clients, it's more subconscious. It's more subconscious. I personally don't believe there's anyone out there who consciously wants to put someone else down for the purposes of control. I don't think they tell themselves and say, you're going to say this thing, you're going to gaslight them, now you're going to use this manipulation technique. I think it's just subconscious, they're driven to do it. Nevertheless, it's not easy to deal with people who do that. who use manipulation tactics by making you feel guilty, by making you feel like you've done the wrong thing, by feel like you've no longer loved them or abandoning them, by using gaslighting, by saying, oh, this never happened or I never said that, even though they did. They make you question your own reality. And the point of that is that they exert control over you by doing that. They exert a control over you and an influence over you, because this is how the narcissistic person relates with other people. They cannot relate on an equal level. Now, the reason is, I believe, on the surface, they see themselves as great. I'm better than everyone. Everyone should love me. So on the surface, they see themselves as up here and you as down here. But the reality, in my opinion and in my professional experience, is that actually deep down at the core, they're down here. They're down here. And often they see you as being above them. So they use two methods. First of all, they degrade you and denigrate you and put you down to their level at the core, which makes them feel good. And I know from experience of narcissists who use other people's misfortune to feel good about themselves, because they actually deep down feel good. They feel it's validated. There's not this intention to see harm on other people, but they just feel this sense of worth that comes from that. But another thing is they want praise. They want to be told how great they are. They want life to revolve around them. They want to be inflated, because that's essentially them seeking the validation and approval of, who they are, who they feel they are. Because they are unable to generate a sense of validation and autonomy and accept their flaws and accept their vulnerability, they seek it from other people. They want to be told they're great, because they do not have the ability to sit with the vulnerability they have. And in my opinion, this is the core point of people who are narcissistic and have narcissistic personality disorder. They are unable to admit that they are vulnerable, that they actually feel low about themselves. They are unable to sit with uncomfortable feelings. And any attempt by anyone else to get close to them, they will reject. They will push you away. They will repel you away. So they use, if you can imagine an accordion kind of going back and forth, this is the pattern of a narcissistic person and how they relate to others. They might be friendly with you, they pull you in, and then when you think they're getting too close, they push you away, because they do not want you to see what they sense is who they really are, which is actually vulnerable and low, but they will never admit to themselves that they have that vulnerability. So they just use the techniques of manipulation by making someone feel guilty and bad for them, and therefore that guilt is going to make that person want to be drawn to them again. So that person says, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And this is exactly what the narcissist wants to hear. But then if someone's getting too close, they push them away, because it's psychological level. I can't let this person get too close to me, because I cannot allow them to see the real me, which actually is nothing like what I'm presenting to the world. And I'm saying this as if this is all conscious. It's not. This is unconscious. So when you explain this to a narcissist, they're going to reject it and think you're crazy. What are you talking about? You're overthinking this. This is why it's so difficult to relate to a narcissist, because it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. This has been my experience of working with clients who have these traits, and also with clients who live with people with these traits and even with the disorder itself. And I know that it can be very difficult being with someone with those traits. It can get to the point where it's toxic, it's repulsive. And my experience is that deep down at the core of the narcissistic person, there is a vulnerability that they have, that they feel that actually they're not good enough and they're not adequate. And so they need this constant validation from others. And the only way they feel they can allow people in their lives is through this manipulation, rather than just trusting that that person wants to be with them. But in order to do that, you need to be vulnerable, and you need to admit that you have those vulnerable feelings. And this is very difficult for the narcissistic person to do. is always about it's other people's fault, it's the other people's problem. I'm not the problem. I'm the good one here. So I'm hoping that this kind of presents a bit of a different spin that you might read about and hear about this kind of narcissistic traits. This is just based on my own experience and knowledge so far. By all means, if you really want to delve into narcissistic personality disorder, if you're concerned that you yourself or you live with someone who has these traits and you want to get to the bottom of it, then please do seek out professional support. And also, if you want to learn more about it, then I'd highly recommend watching Dr. Ramani's podcast on YouTube, because she's seen as the kind of narcissistic expert. So she'll be able to talk a lot more about this. Her videos are on YouTube, they're available for free. But I hope this video kind of gave you a kind of different take on narcissism. This is just based on my own opinion and my expertise, and also my experience in working with clients who have these traits. Essentially, it comes down to the inner vulnerability they have, but that they don't want anyone to see on a kind of deeper psychological level. Please comment below what your thoughts are, whether you have experience of people who are narcissistic or whether you feel you have those traits yourself. I'd love to hear about it. I'm curious to learn more. Please like and subscribe, and there's going to be more content coming out soon.